Bitcoin had one of its largest drops in history and then bounced almost 40% off the lows, but now it's waiting to make a decision sitting underneath a key resistance at around $42,000. We're going to take a look at the charts and see what we think will likely happen next. And while that's happening, of course, negative news, FUD, it all continues to pile on seemingly endlessly. And this negative news shows us exactly why Bitcoin is so important in the first place. I'm going to dig further into that and the charts now, so stay tuned. What is up, everybody? I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we get started, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel and hit that like button right down below. As I mentioned in the intro, Bitcoin is at a key level now. It had a beautiful bounce, but it's too early to say that we are out of the woods, obviously. But also the negative news just continues to pile on over and over and over and over again. I'm going to go through the stories that we're seeing right now and tell you why it's largely FUD and why people need to own Bitcoin in the first place. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the charts. First, I have the Bitcoin weekly chart pulled up on Bitstamp. I pulled fibs from this move right here, starting at 9,825. As we all know, we were trading under 10,000 for ages. So this is really where this move began. If you pull those fibs, you can see that this move retraced from the $65,000 highs right back to the golden pocket around the 61.8%. Anywhere between the 61.8% fib level and the 65%-ish retracement, which is not a fib level, is considered the golden pocket. Bitcoin loves the golden pocket, and this is where we expect moves to hit before heading in the opposite direction. That happened in the bear market on the way down, and it's happened in bull markets on the way up. That level is right around 30,861 for the 61.8% fib level. So I'm going to keep watching that because that seems to be an important place for us to likely have bottomed if the bull market is going to continue. Now, also looking at the weekly candle now, it's 2 days too early. It's only Friday, but if we close a candle here or higher, this would be a beautiful hammer with an exceptionally long wick. I mean, we're talking about an $11,000 wick here on the weekly candle. If we get a candle like that, especially if we close up a bit higher, and imagine if it closed green after 2 days, that would be a very good signal that we are likely to reverse. Now, taking a look at the daily chart, I shared this same chart yesterday. You can see this key level at 41,986. That's the 42,000 I was talking about. This is where it ended the parabolic move up from the previous all-time highs around 20,000. We consolidated there for weeks, and it took Tesla buying $1.5 billion in Bitcoin to break out of that range to the upside. Well, in a manner of poetic justice, we have retraced all of the benefit that was given by Elon Musk, and many people blame him for the drop that took it back to those levels. I do not, but it is an interesting narrative. But now we have effectively erased Elon Musk's effect on Bitcoin. As you can see here, we had that huge daily candle 2 days ago. We had a beautiful candle afterwards, but struggled there at that level, and we're struggling there again. Will be interesting to see if we can inevitably break above, but we do have tons of volume, and it seems that buyers are still interested at these levels. And now, digging in here, of course, on the daily chart, you can see that we finally did get oversold on RSI, which is something we've been waiting for since March of last year. Now, if we struggle here to break resistance, I would imagine we'll see another drop to consolidate and attempt another move. If we do that, I'll be looking for something like this, making a lower low. Now, remember, this is a line chart when you're doing RSI divergences. So the low is around 37,000, not all the way down at 29. So we don't need that big of a drop. And then I'd be looking for RSI to make a higher low, form a bullish divergence here. Would be a huge reversal signal and something that I would be looking for. At the bottom line right now is really the bullish case starts to begin above 42,000, but we have tons of resistance, of course, ahead. And even another drop, especially if we make an RSI divergence, could just be fuel for a fire to a bigger move to the upside. Now let's take a look at the news because, man, it is still brutal out there. Gary Gensler says SEC should be ready to bring cases involving crypto. The SEC chair continued to highlight investor protection as he previewed the regulator's cryptocurrency enforcement efforts. Nothing surprising here. We know that regulation is absolutely coming to the space, and we know that they're going to try to weed out bad actors and scammers and anyone who's doing wrong. The job of the SEC effectively is to protect consumers and the average person. Now, sometimes they do that in a manner that seems to benefit the wealthy and not the poor. But that's something that we can definitely talk about later. But just to say, there's no surprises here. We saw Bitcoin drop yesterday on the news that Biden had announced that they wanted people to report their transactions of $10,000 or larger, which everybody has to do anyways. If you're doing it in cash, it has the same rules. And if you're a tax paying law-abiding citizen, then you already report all of your transactions. All of this is absolute FUD, just painting things that are coming in a negative light. Having to tell the government that you had a transaction of 10,000 more or less is already the law. Of course, it's applied to cryptocurrencies. Next, the real story of the crypto crash has very little to do with Elon or China. This is on my friend NLW's podcast, The Breakdown. Now, we talked about this yesterday. Sam from FTX also wrote about this. This move is not because of Elon Musk. It's not because of China FUD. It's because of leverage. As I've read so far, we had about $10 billion liquidated on that move down. But what's even more notable is that it was about 800,000 separate accounts that accounted for this. This is not institutions selling their Bitcoins. This is someone just absolutely rinsing retail investors who are using too high of leverage. This is a liquidation cascade. As they liquidate, the liquidation engine pushes down and liquidates more positions all the way to the bottom. And retail continued to try it along with leverage on the way down, adding to the problem. 800,000 separate accounts were liquidated on this drop. It's absolutely insane to think about that. And you know now that it was retail and not institutions that were losing their money. Elon Musk says Lightning Network needed to scale Bitcoin for now. I think that that's a fair assessment, that Bitcoin is a bit clunky and uses too much energy, and that layer 2 solutions for now would probably be the best solution for bringing it to scale. But he does believe and says here that it is possible that a more efficient single layer network like Bitcoin's could carry all human transactions in the future. I love seeing that Elon Musk is engaging with smaller accounts all over Twitter, talking about the energy debate and other things about Bitcoin. I know that he's an easy enemy to have after this drop, but I do think that one day he will return to being our ally. On to the next billionaire who seemed to have dumped on people of late, or at least that's the criticism. Vitalik Buterin, crypto's in a bubble. Bitcoin may get left behind due to its power usage. Well, that's very easy, obviously, for Vitalik to say, since he's moving Ethereum from proof of work to proof of stake. And as he says here, we go from consuming the same energy as a mid-sized country to consuming the same energy as a village. Vitalik also pointed out that he believes that crypto is once again in a bubble, that we've seen these bubbles before, but he does not say that that means we've topped. He says it could continue on for quite a long time, but he nonetheless was not at all surprised, and he thinks that Bitcoin could get left behind because of proof of work. Well, let's talk about why Vitalik would not be surprised that the price went down, that the market crashed. Because the Ethereum Foundation transferred 35,000 ETH to the Kraken exchange on May 17th, right before the drop. Vitalik said bubbles could have ended already on May 20th. Well, yeah, one way to make sure that a bubble ends is to send 35,000 Ethereum yourself to exchanges and dump it on the market. Very easy to call it a bubble when you have the power to drop the price significantly and cause that bubble. Now, it's important to note that the Ethereum Foundation still holds 394,787 ETH. So this is about 10% of their holdings. And also, what would you have done if you had, billions and billions of dollars in coins? You trim 10% off as a trader. So I don't necessarily blame them for doing it. They've done this many, many times in the past. This is how they fund their developers. People were quick to say that this means that we're going into a bear market, and they wouldn't have sold unless it was a bear market. But as you can see here, on March 12th, 2021, just 2 months ago, 28,000 Ethereum was transferred from this address at a price of $17.67. So they already sold 28,000 coins at a price that was almost $3,000 under the top. This does not mean, as people are saying, that they think a bear market is coming. It just means they're taking advantage of the opportunity to continue to fund development, which is very expensive. But it is ironic that Vitalik would go on TV and talk about crypto being in a bubble and then sell enough coins to potentially crash the market. And now the final story, the one that just has me so pissed off and annoyed and angry. This is the kind of thing that shows us exactly why we need Bitcoin in the first place. Hong Kong regulators set to ban retail Bitcoin trading. Only millionaires will be allowed to trade Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in Hong Kong if the FSTB proposal is passed by the city's legislature. Now, listen, we've seen this already countless times. We know exactly how this story goes. Morgan Stanley's already done it. JP Morgan's already done it. Goldman's going in that direction. Yes, we'll allow crypto services, but only if you hold $1 million or $2 million or if you have money. We've seen the accredited investor system in the United States fail poor people forever. Only rich people get access to the best investments. You want to invest in your friend's business? Well, you better be rich enough to be able to do it, or else you're not allowed. You want to invest in venture capital? You want to invest in a hedge fund? Can't do it unless you're already rich. The government says that they're protecting the small guy from making a bad investment, but really what they're saying is that you're stupid, you're poor, and we're going to keep you that way. And that is complete bullshit. What they're doing right now in Hong Kong should be considered criminal, and is exactly the reason that we need Bitcoin in the first place. Bitcoin is a hedge. It's the ability for people to escape these legacy systems that are crooked and broken and go to a system that's better and allows them to store value and allows them to hedge against this exact behavior and against the inflation of cash. Do not be fooled. These regulators, these banks, these systems are not your friend. You need to get your Bitcoin now before they try to hoard it all and do not allow you to get your hands on it. Everybody needs to own Bitcoin because they're going to try to incorporate it into their own broken systems that we're trying to escape in the first place. That is all. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, I am Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of Wall Street. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, check out my newsletter and my sponsor, Femex. Until next time, peace.